Everybody, in some way or another, has an alter ego. Take you, for example. Your name is Mike Clements. You're a 27-year-old junior accountant at a sizable firm. You like going to the cinema, jogging, and watching the football with your mates. You live with your girlfriend, Tracy, and your pet dog, Biscuits. But you're also YouTube user RKOIsGod420. You like to comment on Cultaholic videos, lying about how you went to school with me and how you kicked my head in and how AEW sucks and how if you ever see me again, you are going to kick my head in some more. Well, Mike, I have an alter ego too. By day, I'm superstar YouTube presenter Adam Pacitti, but by night, I'm Chance Tanner, expert private investigator, and I've got you exactly where I want you, you little nerd. Alter egos are sometimes used in wrestling too, and no, I'm not talking about completely different gimmicks, but rather another, very different side of the same character. It happens pretty rarely, but the alter ego can help to really keep a performer fresh and opens up a whole new world of storyline possibility. So sit back, relax and enjoy as I, Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com present the 10 most fascinating wrestling alter egos. Join us. Number 10, Chainsaw Charlie. When Terry Funk turned middle-aged and crazy, he did what most of us will likely end up doing. He doused himself in baby powder, put some women's stockings over his head, and started roaming around with a chainsaw. By the time Funk returned to WWE in late 1997, he was already a legend 10 times over thanks to his exploits in Japan, WCW, ECW, and beyond. If you had been a fan of professional wrestling for more than 10 minutes, odds are that you were aware of who Terry Funk was, which made his decision to show up as Chainsaw Charlie even more perplexing. According to the Funker himself, he doesn't know where he came up with the idea, but it all started when Bruce Pritchard told him he was going to appear before the crowd by coming out of a massive box. Fans didn't exactly go wild for the stunt and looked more confused as to why Terry Funk was wearing a pair of tights on his noggin and genuinely concerned that he was, welding an actual chainsaw. Before long, the commentators acknowledged that it was indeed Funk under there, but he still wrestled as Chainsaw Charlie, teaming with Cactus Jack against the New Age Outlaws in a feud that culminated in a dumpster match at WrestleMania 14. There were some great moments, but to be honest, it was about time somebody put this alter ego in the bin. Number 9, G.I. Bro. Booker T was one of the few shining lights of latter-day WCW. Having worked his way up the card from the legendary run in the tag team Harlem Heat along with brother Stevie Ray to becoming a major singles star and eventual 5-time WCW champion, Booker was one of the company's genuine homegrown success stories. And Booker showed another side of himself when he wrestled as G.I. Bro in 2000. G.I. Bro was actually an older creation and the name and gimmick that Booker wrestled under when training with Scott Casey earlier in his career. He had a few televised matches under the guise, including a boot camp match at the Great American Bash pay-per-view, before quickly dropping the act. The character has had a second life in a titular comic book, which later led to something so controversial it's almost as if Vince Russo himself penned it, as Booker sued video game publisher Activision because he believed that the character of Prophet from Call of Duty Black Ops 4 bore more than a passing resemblance to G.I. Bro. Perhaps inspired by the pending lawsuit, Booker once again resurrected the character in February 2020 for a match in his promotion, Reality of Wrestling. Number 8, Kishin Liger. Just a few months before his official retirement in early 2020, the legendary Jushin Thunder Liger gave fans one final and very rare glimpse of an alter ego that had laid dormant for 7 years. During a match with Minoru Suzuki, Liger transformed into Kishin Liger, tearing off his mask to reveal a painted face before launching into a frenzied attack that saw Liger try to actually murder his opponent with a metal spike. The Kishin name has connections to deities and personal transformation, roughly translating as Fierce God. Liger first transformed into Kishin during a match with the Great Muta, in which he matched him mist for mist and, once again, tried to attack him with a spike. It was an incredible spectacle, and Liger smartly understood that the Kishin alter ego should only appear on very special occasions. Over the next almost 25 years, Kishin Liger reared his head only 3 more times, and only once was his appearance announced ahead of time. Liger is universally respected for his technique and in-ring ability, but his transformation to a darker and more violent side gave his character an extra dimension. Number 7, Mr. America. After getting his head kicked in by him at WrestleMania 19, Vince McMahon decided that if you can't beat Hulk Hogan, let him sit out the remainder of his big fat contract in his giant mansion. That'll teach him. Hogan was banished, but he didn't stay away for long. He didn't go away, he just wouldn't stay away. Hogan returned not too long after McMahon's edict as Mr. America, trading in his iconic red and yellow for the red, white and blue of his country, along with a mask to conceal his identity. I say conceal his identity. A little bit of spandex over those walrus chops wasn't about to keep kayfabe, brother, but then that was the point of the joke. A play on the classic babyface is banished from the territory and comes back exactly the same, only wearing a mask trope that every promotion in the 70s and 80s used, this modern spin helped reignite the feud between Hogan and Roddy Piper and introduce the world to Zach Gowen. Overall, the Mr. America saga was brief and not entirely memorable, but people seemed to dig it, so, you know, fair enough. Hogan himself, though, certainly wasn't happy with it, or at least not with the paychecks that followed his matches during that time, and actually quit the promotion because of them. Number 6, Stardust. Cody Rhodes went through quite the transformation during his decade with WWE. He went from being the clean-cut rookie to a cocky member of Legacy to dashing to disfigured to, well, just what would you go about calling Stardust anyway? He was sort of like Goldust's little brother, which makes sense because Cody was actually Goldust's little brother. He had a similar name, a similar costume, and possessed many of the same mannerisms as the Bizarre One. It was acknowledged when the two were feuding that Stardust was just the new alter ego of Cody, with Goldust referring to him as such in promos. Sadly, Stardust was the nadir of Cody's WWE career, as he struggled to gain any real momentum when playing the character and spent much of his time wasting away on low-priority programming like Main Event and Superstars. He sure gave the character his all, but admits that in doing so that the character broke him and that his performances began to suffer as a result. He had tried to get the character scrapped for 6 months before throwing in the towel and asking for his release in May of 2016. Though it was a disappointment in the end, Cody certainly tried his best with what he was given, and Stardust did have his moments, few and fleeting though they were. Number 5, Joseph Park. One of TNA's best original creations was Abyss. The monster was sort of like the company's version of Kane or Mankind, a masked behemoth that was more than willing to put his body on the line. Since TNA's early days in the Nashville Fairgrounds, Abyss was on hand to be put through tables, get tangled in barbed wire, or take a nap in a pile of thumbtacks. After almost a decade of seeing this, however, it was time for a change, and Abyss decided to give his body a bit of a break by introducing the world to Joseph Park, Abyss's brother. It was a bold move for Abyss to voluntarily unmask and reveal himself like that, but Joseph Park was a hit and stuck around in some form or fashion for a good couple of years. The initial storyline of Park, a lawyer with Park, Parks and Park, coming to TNA to help find his missing brother, become a comedy wrestler, and then realize that he was actually Abyss and destroy everyone, was one of the better things TNA have done in relatively recent times. Number 4, Suzy. When it comes to gimmicks with a supernatural bent to them, it's pretty much down to the talent whether or not they're going to work. Especially these days when we're all so cynical and jaded and don't even seem to care that the zombie man somehow made lightning shoot out of the turnbuckles. Su Yung is committed to her character, and as such, it's far easier to buy into it and enjoy it. She was doing the gimmick on the independent scene before coming to Impact Wrestling, but it was while wrestling there that she added a new dimension to it by creating an alter ego. Where Su Yung is wild, violent, and quite literally possessed, Suzy is vulnerable and plucky and pink, the polar opposite of the undead bride concept. Suzy came to be after Su Yung was killed off in an angle with Jessica Havoc. Don't worry folks, she was obviously resurrected later, but in the interim, Suzy showed up and it was somehow all even creepier than before. The Jack in the Box theme music and the fact that she tends to wander aimlessly around the backstage area searching for something is all very spooky indeed, and there's a sense that if someone does anything to get on her bad side, they will unleash something very unpleasant. And both are here to stay, with Impact re-signing both Suzy and Su Yung to multi-year deals in early 2020. May God have mercy on us all. Number 3, The Demon. Finn Balor seems like a nice bloke, doesn't he? Neat and trim, big smile, warm disposition, your classic boy next door type. Doesn't look like anything phases him, good lad to go for a protein shake with. If you make him angry, however, you may have to answer to the Demon. Doing a total 180 from his usual self, Balor as the Demon completely changes up his look and act. That GQ face gets painted in dark colors, those ripped muscles are covered in different variations of art, his music changes, and so does the temperature in the room when he enters. The name Balor itself actually comes from Irish folklore and is the king of a mythical race of demons, sometimes depicted as a one-eyed giant capable of killing anything that looks at it. Reserved only for special occasions like pay-per-views and major grudge or title matches, the demon will only come out if it's for a reason. And far from being a gimmick utilized for smoke and mirrors, Balor as the Demon works just as hard under the makeup as if he was not, and has had many great matches in the guise. Of course, the logic behind bringing out the Demon is not always airtight. I mean, I know this is wrestling and you have to oftentimes throw logic right out the window, but it's still hard to fathom why the Demon was wasted on Baron Corbin while plain old Finn Balor squared up with Brock pissing Lesnar. Number 2, The Fiend. Bray Wyatt was one of those characters that, in his almost 6 years as a regular featured character on WWE television, could have used a bit of a break. After some pretty rotten booking and lackluster title reigns, the decision was made to refresh the character by giving Wyatt a split personality. Initially, the Firefly Funhouse vignette simply dumbfounded viewers. People didn't know what to make of Wyatt, wearing a sweater vest and acting in an over-the-top children's show presenter way as he talked to a collection of grotesque puppets. It felt like you were watching Sesame Street as directed by David Lynch. Soon enough though, the Fiend, Wyatt's even more terrifying alter ego, showed up. The build had been deeply unsettling, and the Fiend debuted in the flesh after months of hype, attacking Finn Balor on the July 25th, 2019 episode of Raw. That led to the Fiend's first official match at SummerSlam, where he made an instantly iconic entrance before absolutely flattening the Irish Ace. Since then, the Fiend has had his ups and downs, but Bray has been able to flip between the villainous monster and his demented Mr. Rogers guise, and more recently back to the creepy cult leader Bray, depending on what the situation calls for. In years to come, we will no doubt look back at the character as one of the most original ever. In fact, many of us already do. Number 1, the 3 Faces of Foley. Of course, the top spot on our countdown is reserved for the other man who has not one alter ego, but 3. Mrs. Foley's baby boy achieved the rare feat of somehow managing to wrestle as a trio of beloved characters. Foley came up with the first of them, the free love hippie dude Love, while jumping off of Roos as a high schooler. He would later bring the character to WWE for a brief but very memorable main event program with Steve Austin. His second, the reckless and sadistic Cactus Jack, was what brought him his initial success in the US and Japan and revitalized his WWE career as he neared the end of his full-time run. And his third, Mankind, was one of the most popular inventions of the Attitude Era, successfully morphing from psychotic basement dweller to affable underdog with a sock for a best mate. That Foley could move from one alter ego to the next with ease is a testament to his talent as a performer, and WWE took full advantage of this ability by having him portray all 3 in a memorable backstage segment and in the 1998 Royal Rumble in the same match. Whether playing it straight or purely for laughs, the 3 Faces of Foley were more often than not good value. 3 for a tenner, buy 2, get 1 free. Bang bang, ow, have mercy, and have a nice day.